Christina Williams has many accolades behind her name, including successful forays into the Jamaican Youth Parliament, pageantry and project management, just to name a few. On June 24, 2020, this advocate with an afro announced that a promise had been fulfilled in that the student health card coverage was extended island-wide for UWI students. Good evening, Christine. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure is ours, and we were trying to get you for a while, but in fullness of time, I guess. But I want you to explain the process, please, leading up to your announcement on June 24.
So the first thing I did was, before I even ran for guild president, I would have canvassed the university to figure out some priority areas. And the health card was one of the main issues that students spoke about in terms of not being able to access healthcare, aside from the health center on campus, as well as the UWI hospital in cases of emergencies. And so I felt it was my prerogative that if I should run and become successful as guild president, I needed to do my part in having that issue alleviated. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was to talk to the different insurance providers, both the one who were providing the service currently, as well as potential providers, to see what would be possible. One of the main issues a person spoke about was that they didn't think it was possible for me to fulfill that particular manifesto point or manifesto proposal because they thought it would be very expensive. But after looking at the population that we had in terms of 20,000 students, most of them being healthy and able-bodied, I saw the opportunity for us to have the health card access extended while still maintaining an affordable cost. And we were able to achieve that. We were able to have the health card extended for only about 500 Jamaican dollars increase. And many persons were really shocked at that. So it came through a lot of research, both with the providers, speaking to students before I went on to advocate for it, as well as working with the university partners. I have to big up at this time the campus registrar, Dr. Stanberry, who would have supported my call for the health card to be extended, and would have also been the person who asked for the insurance providers to provide a tender that would, well, he released a tender rather, that asked for an additional aspect to the policy, which would have been the extension. So it was a collaborative effort, I must say.
Congratulations to you on that, and I should have also put it in the context that you are the current guild president. But continuing from your experience, how was the health card treated before? Because I see you gave the experience of not necessarily going to collect yours.
Right. Let me jump in to say I am not the current, so I served for 2019-20. My successor has taken office recently, so as we speak, I am not. When you'd have sent the invitation, I would have been president at the time, however. But in terms of, you spoke about how it was treated before. So students, most of the students of the population never accessed the health card because I thought it didn't make any sense, you know, to only be able to access the health card on campus. For students who wanted to access it outside of the health hours, outside of the office hours of the health center rather, they didn't see it as, I would say, accessible for them. And there are lots of students who are commuting. We have over 12 to 14,000 students who commuted. And this was before COVID-19, might I add. And so you have so many students who don't live on campus who wouldn't have been able to access. So now that we have COVID-19 and we're looking at a 97% of students being off campus, right? Because only clinical and lab type courses will be allowed on campus in terms of face-to-face. You're finding that the health card policy, the extension, is so critical for students now because we have majority of our students will now be off campus.
Now, what are you on the executive while you were doing it? And I guess the new executive, if you're in connection or dialogue with them, what are you hearing from students about the health card and their appreciation of it, one, and other issues that they may have as the pandemic continues? Because as you said, we are in the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right. So actually I'm the presidential advisor. So I have the direct ear of the current president, Mr. J. Boswell. I advise him. So I guess I'm an ex officio member still of the guild. In regards to that, students are very pleased in terms of noting that they will still be able to access the health card, especially now. And as I said before, 97% of students will now be off campus. And so it was a very timely policy. In terms of other issues though, what I see most students being concerned about is the protocols for those who will be on campus. So students.
So it seems as there was a slight break in transmission there, but we are
Yes,
speaking.
right,
Okay,
I am here.
you're back with us. Thank you. Continue.
Right. So, right. So for students who are, main concern that students have is the protocols. Some students will be allowed on hall, and so they're concerned of, while I'm on hall, will I be protected, right? And that is, I see the university doing their very best. Was one of the persons before now who would have looked at the protocols that have been put in place. It has been changed somewhat now, mind you, but I know they're doing their very best to ensure that students are secured, but it does not take away from the fact that students are still very anxious. And I know you have been watching the news here in Jamaica to see that the cases have been spiking. You know, we're seeing instances where we're seeing 66 cases per day, 50 odd cases per day. And so the anxiety among students is understandable and is actually expected. Another concern that students are having is in terms of fees, of course. We know that now most courses are now online. So students are saying, you know, what is going to happen in terms of, am I going to get a reduction in my fees now that all my courses are online? I know the university has taken the stance, and I see it in St. Augustine as well, here in Trinidad, I say there in Trinidad, where they're saying that certain type of fees will be removed or reduced. I think St. Augustine said amenities fees, and on UWI they're saying some aspects of the miscellaneous fees will be removed because students will no longer be able to access like the gym, the pool, etc. So I think the university, all of the campuses for UWI have to work now to say, okay, how much other concessions can we give students to still allow them to be able to affordably access tertiary learning during this time?
So even with some of those reductions, are you still having talks with students who are saying, even with the reductions, we're not sure how this is going to take place in terms of them footing the student bills?
Definitely. Let me tell you something, and I say it unashamedly. We don't have gates like you guys. So as a result, most of the funding that students have to take on as students here in Jamaica, it's normally done by themselves or through a loan. Student loan, there are some concessions on student loan, even though we're in the heat of elections and we're hearing both parties, the PNP and JLP, promising reductions in terms of the moratorium period, well, actual extensions in terms of the moratorium period, as well as reductions in the interest rate. So we're seeing that. But the truth is that SLB cannot be the solution only. It's a part of the process, but it cannot just be that, because we have a population of maybe 30,000 students. We're not able to have SLB for all those students. Work and travel was an initiative that we had in Jamaica where students could go away and they earned an average of $5,000 to $8,000 to help with their tuition. That crashed completely this academic year because there were restrictions going into the US. So the problem now is that we have all those thousands of students, returning students who didn't have the work and travel, who still need to come to school. You have new students as well. So it's a large number of students who are saying that it's still too expensive. And let me quickly add as well that for a number of the programs that are self-financing, like law and medicine, they're quoted in USD. And we're currently at a 150 to 1 in Jamaica as we speak. So you're finding out Jamaican students saying we're not able to pay for these particular degree programs at the current USD exchange rate that we have.
And I think the Mona campus would be one of the best for bringing students into the system. So while campus is on, you would find a lot of people working part-time. But we continue this conversation. Christina Williams, the immediate past Guild president of the UWI Mona campus. Stay with us. We return after this. Welcome back. We are speaking with Christina Williams, the immediate past president of the Guild of Students for the UWI Mona campus. Now, the jump-off point was island-wide coverage for the health card, the UWI health card. But in terms of looking at other solutions, were you part of a 5-day webinar on COVID-19 solutions, Christina?
Yes, I was with the UNDP.
And what was that like, and what was that about? What are some of the things that you covered?
Okay, so UNDP, the global UNDP, they issued their COVID-19 report. And what it really did was to look at issues that are affecting young people, which is a part of, but not just only young people, but they wanted us as youth. It wasn't just me. It was actually about 68 different university student leaders, as well as young people from like the Commonwealth Youth Council and different climate change groups as well, who came together to create, I would say, to have a youth view on the COVID-19 report as well to provide our own solutions. And let me tell you something. One of the main issues I saw coming from that report was that we had 85% of the world's student population that has been affected by COVID-19 as a result of school closures. In Jamaica, I see that for a fact. That's probably the same thing in Trinidad, where in Jamaica, we had a report that says that 30% of students did not have the accessibility to internet and devices. 30% of the entire student population in Jamaica. I'm not sure what the figures are like in your country, but looking at the report, we were able to tie it in and relate it with what was happening in Jamaica, and then we came up with ideas of how we could combat those issues. I came up with an idea with my team. We did a development challenge. It's called CoVinected, where we created a standardization model of how to ensure that no student would be left behind in terms of access to online learning, whether it be fully online or blended modality. And some of the things that we spoke about was that first thing, you need to zero rate online learning platforms. I started that initiative as Guild President, where we spoke to the Digital and Flow, as well as the Minister of Education and the Ministry of Science and Technology, to say to them, listen, you need to zero rate online learning platforms. What we found out was that many of the universities, listen to me, when I heard about it, I could not believe. Many of the universities they at the time did not have online learning platforms. They had to be made, or they had to utilize platforms like Schoology, etc. And so we're seeing where the infrastructure technology in some of our schools need to be developed more. And so we had those learning platforms developed, we had them zero rated, and so that really helped tremendously in having students be able to complete the semester as best as possible. We also had subsidized data plans, and it was so effective that I see even in Trinidad, Digicel actually in Trinidad adopted the initiative as well and zero rated online learning for campuses there as well. So that did very well. But what I want to see though is to have that initiative continued and to be extended. The government here in Jamaica started satellite internet. They're working in rural communities, but that needs to be extended as well. We need to do research, not just in Jamaica, but across the Caribbean, to see the most vulnerable communities, the most vulnerable students, and to see who needs the help now the most. Because school starts very soon. For universities here in Jamaica, school starts September 7th, which is like 2 weeks from now. And the infrastructure is not in place for some of these students. For the primary and secondary students, they start in October, but still we need to have support for those students. Jamaican government is saying that they're going to give 40,000 tablets to students, but that still won't cover all the students. We have about 300,000 students alone in the secondary institutions, not to mention primary and infant. So 40,000 tablets won't be enough. So there has to be a broadening of that narrative to mention the fact that telecommunication providers need to also play their part in ensuring that people can have consistent and reliable internet access.
Now, as a young person who speaks from a place of having researched your position and also having you're currently doing policy at school, right? How important is it to have young or youth-led initiatives to carry things to the fore and carry things forward on a policy basis, as opposed to just moving on it with a strength to our vibes and a feeling at this point in time, but not necessarily having a concretized, workable, functional plan?
Very good question. I love that question. Let me tell you something. Right now in COVID-19, we're seeing where every age cohort that you can think of, or just any cross-section of the population, has their own unique issues. And they're all valid in their own right and important. And so when a young person comes and is pushing the narrative of wanting equitable digital access to facilitate education, or they want employment, quality employment, and they want employment opportunities, that sounds good, but what sets you apart from the other valid issues of other age cohorts? That is why you need research, because then you can say, for example, in Jamaica, 15% of our population, only 50% of the population has had access to tertiary education. of our labor force, 70% is not skilled. So when you're able to say to your government, listen, 70% of the labor force is unskilled, then you need to ensure that you provide resources and policies or programs, whatever, that can get more of this population skilled. When you have data like that to throw at government or different agencies that are part of the policy making process, then you're able to pull out more interest and to have them prioritize your issues. But when you just said, oh, we want jobs, or we want quality jobs, or we want concessions and subsidies, nobody cares because everybody's asking for that. Farmers are asking for that. Persons in the in the white collar or even blue collar jobs are asking for that. What makes your priority what makes your issues become a priority is when you're able to back that with data that, I would say, data that you cannot just overlook. And that's a part of what I do on a day-to-day basis. Before I go on any platform, including this one, I do my research because I don't want to speak from just a point of passion, which is important, but I also want to speak from a point of, I would say, from evidence-based information.
And from that kind of informed position, what is the kind of communication that you're having with the UWI right now?
Okay, so interestingly, apart from being the president's advisor, I'm a CSA, as I call it, community students advisor. I'm a student development consultant on the campus right now, where I'm in charge of virtual engagement for students in the areas of civic engagement and service learning. So in a sense, I'm now in charge of the students who are now online, who won't be coming on campus, or if they're commuting to campus. How do we ensure that they remain engaged in the sense of getting involved in volunteerism, clubs and societies, stuff like that? So that's actually my portfolio now going forward. And so it's very good to know I'm still able to contribute, and in a very large way now, because as I said before, 97% of students will now be off campus. So I have to ensure that those students remain engaged and still able to say I am having a fulsome experience as a student. Because what we're seeing that a lot of students are becoming disconnected from the process. They're stuck at home in their rooms. They just go on to do the classes or to do their assignments, and they don't feel connected to the university anymore. And so my job now going forward is to ensure that that is reduced as much as possible.
So we have just over a minute and a half more. What are some of your hopes for the incoming guild and the student population as you interact with them now?
My hope for the guild is for them to be, as you said, as you asked the question earlier, for them to be research oriented. Yes, the guild is known to have always been a passionate body, but after my tenure and to see how we were able to achieve the things that were unprecedented, you know, we reduced the registration by 99.9%. Before that, we had about 2,000 students deregistered, and we were able to get rid of that number completely. We saw with the health card something that a policy that has been in place for 70 years until this guild came about, and many other things, partnerships with SLB, partnerships with Educom to get emergency student loans for students. All of those things came out of passion, one, but also through research and seeing where we could have partnerships. So for the guild now, because they're already in place, all I have to say to them is I am here as a support through being president's advisor, but also you have to do your own research. You have to keep connected to the student population, and the solutions should not just be generated from your minds, but also from the student populace themselves. I always say this, as student leaders, we should not just be the voice for the voiceless, but we should give them a voice for themselves, because it's about us as leaders, but about the students that we serve. So you have to keep the students empowered and engaged, and that's the best formula to ensure that you're effective in your respective roles.
Christina Williams, we thank you so much for your passion, your research, and your engagement. And on behalf of the entire news team, I'm DK Roster. Thank you for joining us. Good night.